As a preliminary matter, um, today is June 15th, 2022. My name is Pete Pecos. I'm the current chair for the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members in person anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Larry Murphy.
Here.
Thank you, sir. George Morse.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Leslie Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you, Leslie. Woody Knight.
Here.
Thank you, Woody. Mary Stone.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Town staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you. Anticipated speakers or presenters on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Eric McLean.
He's here. He's
Here.
muted.
Okay. Steve. All right. Very good. Good evening. Excuse me. This is June 15th, 2022. Open meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, which extends the Governor's March 12th, 2020 orders certain provisions of the open meeting law until July 15th, 2022. This order suspends the requirements of the open meeting to have all meetings in publicly accessible physical locations and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found on the town's website and which identifies how the public may join. You may join us by going to zoom.us and entering meeting ID 832-7141-3056 or by calling 929-205-6099 and entering the meeting ID when prompted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and or a telephone conference. The meeting is also being broadcast live through local access cable channel number 9 on Zoom and at www.tnctv.org, and a recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to board members prior to the meeting for review. Applicants or their representatives will be called upon to speak, and if needed, share information to the screen. Please state your intention after you've been called. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for clear and effective conduct of our business and to ensure accurate minutes. I, as a chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of board members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees except board members and staff, please remember to mute your computer with the mute button or on your phone with the *6 to toggle to mute or not mute when you are not speaking. Please use earbuds, earphones with tablets or cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly in a manner that will allow for accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any responses, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If board members wish to engage in discussions with other members, please do so through me prior to speaking. With regards to public comment, there'll be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After board members have spoken, I will afford the public an opportunity to comment and or ask questions. I will seek questions and comments through the Zoom raise hand function. For video conference participants, you can raise your hand by hovering over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the gray hand that appears. Please ensure that your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more functions next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone keypad. I will then answer questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click the raise hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address and then ask their question or make their comment. I will afford the applicant, participant, or his representative or her representative the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your question. I will then continue down the list of those raise hand column, affording the participant, applicant, or representative an opportunity to speak. Should there be any physical or electronic submittal of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. And again, the participant, applicant, representative will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call. Okay, so let me just kind of see what we have for an agenda. So pop that up for a sec. Tonight, we do have a public hearing that will be at 7:15. So until then, we can probably start with our liaison reports. Leslie, do you want to start off with the select board?
Yeah, there was some of the usual business as far as renewal of licenses. And there was actually talk about a muster, which is exciting. And a lot of discussion about the Newbury Town Day. And there's, they're waiting for, there's been a request granted to file notice with the Conservation Commission for Street 33 down at Plum Island, where they can increase the size to make it more of a safer environment. Not really anything big, but they still have to come in front of the, so there was a presentation given on that. All the appointees throughout the different boards were given out last night as well. Mary, you were mentioned. So that was, well, they had an executive session. So that's kind of where I think a lot of people after that tuned out, but it was kind of a, well, I'll tell you, the beginning of the meeting started off, it's going to be kind of interesting because there might be a special town meeting that the people on Larkin Road have requested because they feel that they have been treated unfairly as far as the vote that was taken during the town meeting. So they're bringing it up and they want a recall and they want a special town meeting just to talk about this issue. They got, in 2 days, they got like 350 signatures on a petition that gave them the right to go forward on this. So once all the Ts are crossed and the Is dotted, and there'll be information filed to start the proceedings. And that's about it.
Thank you very much, Leslie. ZBA.
I really don't have anything to report. The regular monthly meeting is tomorrow night. There's a continued public hearing on some property on 10 10th Street on the island, which I think I reported on last time. So there's really nothing new.
Okay, great.
That's the only thing on their agenda for tomorrow night.
All right. Thank you very much, Larry. MVPC, Martha.
Nothing new since the last meeting. Commissioners' meetings actually are done until September. The planning directors' meetings will be continuing, so I will be reporting on those. We do have a tour of some of their projects along the Merrimack River tomorrow, the commissioners. And that will be it for the summer.
All right. Conservation had a meeting. Let's see. We had did a sidewalk yesterday of the Pink House because they want to do a little bit of modification to that. So we had to kind of look at that from a Concom standpoint. There'll be a bylaw meeting, I think, in 2 weeks. Maybe it's next week, workshop. And other than that, I think things are pretty much on all set there. Okay, Martha, do we have a financial that I have to go over this meeting?
No, that was the last meeting.
Beautiful. Okay, great. Do we have anything from the planning director? Do we have anything to add and report?
I do have a few things here. One, I know everybody's curious about the fate of remote meetings, so I tried to check on that today. And what I found is the conference committee that was formed to develop a compromise FY23 budget bill and reconcile the differences between the House and the Senate bills met for the first time on June 8th. They only had about 3 minutes of video and then they went into executive session. So I don't know what came out of it. They said they hope to resolve this quickly, but we'll see what happens. It was down to the wire last time. For us, as long as we don't have any new or continued public hearings, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue, but it would be still nice to get more of a heads up than we did last year. As Leslie announced, the select board did do most, not all, but most of the FY23 appointments, and they did reappoint Mary to her position. So thank you, Mary, as associate member, and Larry and I were reappointed as MVPC commissioner and alternate commissioner. A few things on 105 High Road. All the documents have been recorded, including the master deed, the declaration of trust, the declaration of restriction, and the public access easement, which was approved by the Concom at its meeting last week. Steve Sawyer contacted Joe Sirwatka and me yesterday, wanting to have an agenda item tonight for partial release of the tripartite agreement. But first of all, Joe wouldn't have had time to go through it. And I told him the agenda had closed last week, so they're going to aim for the next meeting on July 6th. 15 Coleman Road. Tom is having a little bit of trouble getting engineering help to do the A&R plan for the Witchstone plot. So that's still pending. I've asked him for copies of all the recorded documents, and he's been out of town, so he said he would get those to me. 7 Larkin Road, there's continued discussion of a potential subdivision. That's just at the staff level right now. So Sam and I are going to do a site walk towards the end of the month, and they're trying to, they've scheduled some perk tests in July, and I think that will sort of help them determine how many lots they can actually get there. So I'll keep you posted on that. Not ready for discussion with the board yet. Last week, I attended the Mass Housing Partnership 2022 Housing Institute, which had some really good sessions. MHP has developed this density tool called Residensity, which I think may help us with our MBTA community stuff. There was a good one on septic systems, quite informative. There's a big leap between what you can do at the local level in terms of approving a septic system, and then the next thing is a package system. So there's a whole middle ground right now, which doesn't really get covered because doing a package system is extraordinarily expensive. Anyway, so it was some great sessions. And just a reminder that the Gadsden Lane modification decision is ready for signature, and that's out in the box for everybody. That's it.
Thanks, Martha.
Hey, Martha, I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Do you know, is the AG still reviewing the bylaw amendments that we voted at the annual town meeting, or have they been approved?
I haven't seen any notification of approval. We had to send it into the AG within 30 days of the vote. I know that was done, I think, a couple weeks afterwards. And then the AG's office has 90 days to review.
Right. Where I'm thinking ahead is assuming, and I fully expect they'll be approved, we need to think about regulations for small cell facilities at some point in the near future, I think.
Absolutely, we should do that. Thank you for that reminder.
Very good. Okay, Martha, thanks very much.
Thanks, Martha.
We're almost to 7:15, so I'm going to start to read the announcement for the public hearing that will start at 7:15. This will be a public hearing continuance for a special permit application for a ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation, 75 Boston Road, Newbury landfill, map R36 lot 27. Applicant is Alliance Newbury LLC. The owner is the town of Newbury. Let's kind of kick this off. Is our applicant here, Martha?
Yes, he is here.
Okay, so let's see, we opened our public hearing back in December of December 15th of 2021. It was continued a number of times, and there wasn't much a discussion at the request of the applicant until March 2nd, 22. At that time, the board did review special permit review criteria for the ground mounted solar installation, and we voted to direct the planning director to draft a decision in favor of granting the special permit. The draft decision was reviewed at the April 6th meeting of 2022 in a session of the public hearing. The hearing has been continued, as noted several times, without discussion since then. We have one outstanding issue, I think, Martha, from that, which was the for the decommissioning bond. And we asked that the planning director confer with town council, and we have recommendations from town council that we received and we'll be discussing tonight. So that's kind of a background of what's taken place. So I just want to check with the applicant to see if there's any new information, anything with regards to the update for the solid waste 36 application to DEP, or the police department firing range relocation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Martha, thank you for having me again. Apologize about the last continuance in the short notice there, so sorry about that. Mr. Chairman, there's no, the permit is being worked on, let me rephrase. The DEP solid waste permit for the PV array has been approved and we have that in hand. A subsequent permit application for the relocation of the firing range will need to be filed. That is being worked on by Weston and Sampson, and I believe I'll have a draft shortly for review, and I'll pass it to the town then. Other than that, there is no update. We already have all our other permits in hand, or discretionary permits, I'll say. So.
All right. Thank you. Let me ask the board members if they have any questions right now of the applicant. Larry?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Leslie?
No,
George?
No,
Woody?
I don't have any questions right now.
And Mary?
No,
Okay. With regards to the draft decision, I want to see if anyone has any questions or comments. Martha, would it be a good idea maybe to pop that up just so we can review it?
Sure.
And I believe everyone has seen this previously, so I just want to have the opportunity for folks to look at it to see if there's any questions.
So are you able to see that?
We are.
yeah,
All right. So we did go through this on April 6th. Do you want me to just kind of do a quick refresher?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so it'll take me a bit to get back up to the top here. So the first, and there are some dates obviously on this that will need to be changed, updated based on the fact that we were talking about this in April and we're now in June. So procedural history, and again, the date, April 6th, will need to be updated, added to. We had discussed a change last time, since we actually hadn't received any oral comments, just to say that interested parties hadn't had an opportunity to submit comments orally and in writing. Eric had clarified that they're Alliance LLCs in North Andover, not Andover. So that was a change. The next was the list of submitted materials. Excuse me. And the one thing that was added down at the bottom was the letter from Eric McLean about the decommissioning bond. Project description, I don't think there was any change there. And then the findings and determinations made based on the review that the board did of the findings that need to be made in order to grant the special permit. So there were no changes there. And then the decision itself and the conditions of approval. So when the board went through this before, the one outstanding item, as the chair mentioned, was the amount of the decommissioning bond. And I did have a conversation with town council about this, which I described to you in the email that I sent. And her recommendation was that the salvage value should not be included. It should be based on the labor. And then we had in number 4, there was some discussion about changing this slightly, and I haven't finished the amendment, but it was basically a final location. The firing range will be as approved by the town. And the applicant shall be responsible for ensuring that all required permits are obtained related to the relocation of the firing range. And that was basically it.
Okay, great. Martha, have we received any written information since our last hearing?
No, just the consultation with town council, but no comments.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the board on this? Okay, that being the case, I think all that we need to do now is to determine the amount of decommissioning bond. We had a recommendation between 60 and 75,000. Larry, did you have a feeling as to which direction this should go in?
Well, from what I understand, town council has suggested that the decommissioning bond ought to be somewhere between 60 and 75,000. Using the applicant's figures and taking out the salvage value at the projected end of useful life of the facility, it would be a little over 58,800. So multiplying that by the 1.25 that our bylaw provides for, it, by my calculation, would come out to $73,516.25. I'd be comfortable just rounding that to 70,000.
Okay.
I think would be a reasonable number.
Okay. Let me ask members if they're comfortable with that number. George?
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Woody?
Yes, it makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Okay, and Mary?
I see 73,000, so it's rounded down to 70.
That's what Larry's suggestion is.
Right. Okay, well, that's fine. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, that being the case, I think we have a number, Martha, for you to plug in.
All right.
Are there board members, are there any other questions on the draft decision? Larry?
No.
Great. George?
Yes. I have a question for Martha. It's on page 2, paragraph 6. You had concern on your marginal note about no one presented anything orally. And I'm not sure that it wouldn't be just as easy to put in right after orally, parentheses, none, parentheses.
We could do that. We had talked about saying that they had had an opportunity to submit comments, but we could certainly add that none had been.
Right, I think that answers your side comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that recommendation. Larry, are you comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay, Leslie, you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, Woody, you comfortable with that?
Yes, good.
Okay, great. And Mary, are you comfortable with that?
Fine.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Does the applicant have any final comments or questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, just on the decommissioning bond, and I think I understand how the board got to the number in it, and I don't disagree with it or have a comment on that. I would, as an advocate for solar, recommend that maybe the board look at for other hearings on why it believes there's a need for decommissioning bond. I often do third-party reviews for other planning board or zoning boards for this one reason. And you know, one of my first questions when I meet with them is, do you require a gas station to put up a decommissioning bond? Do you require a commercial facility to put up a decommissioning bond? Do you require, what are the other uses you use that you require to have a decommissioning bond? And, you know, often the answer back is no, we don't, or really it's just this or cell towers or something like that. And, you know, I can understand a cell tower if it's derelict and it's there, it can be a hazard. But I would say on a PV facility, it's an energy generating facility, and it is worth as much or more than a commercial facility or a gas station or industrial facility. Many places where planning and zoning boards do not require decommissioning bonds. And, you know, the technology is not, 20 years ago, you know, I can understand how planning or zoning boards, you know, they're not sure of what it is, how it's going to work. There's facilities, you know, I'm working on a facility in Beverly now that's been operational for 40 years. So it has been making energy, which has a value for 40 years, right? So that would be my only comment to the board is just, you know, and I agree and understand of how you got to the number. You used my numbers to come up with it, and I understand that the conservation or the conservatism in that. So I'm not questioning that. I would just as an advocate of solar recommend that maybe the board think of that.
Okay, thanks very much.
That's a good question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Leslie.
Okay. Because I don't really have full understanding of the decommissioning bond, is this a natural way to go? Did they go in that direction with the Borrego on Main Street and the solar farm that's up off of Route 1?
Martha, we can answer that question for Borrego. Yes, we did it. Yes.
Yeah, I think we did for both. And, you know, part of it here is that, you know, for, you know, especially, you know, in this case, if for some reason a situation arises where the town needs to decommission it itself, you know, partly the intent is to cover what the town's costs would be for doing so.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Les, thank you. That being the case, I would ask for a motion to approve the decision as amended to grant special permit for the ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation on Newbury landfill at 75 Boston Road.
So
I
moved.
hope so.
Okay, we're gonna try that again. Who would like to make the motion?
Larry,
I'll so move.
Thank you, Larry. Is there a second?
second,
Thank you, George. On the motion, any questions, Larry?
No,
Questions, George?
no,
Discussion, Leslie?
No,
Discussion, Woody?
No,
Discussion, Mary?
No,
Okay, great. On the motion, how do you vote, Larry?
yes,
Thank you. Leslie, how do you vote?
yes,
Thank you. George, how do you vote?
yes,
Thank you. Woody, how do you vote?
yes,
Thank you. Mary, how do you feel?
yes,
Great. And the chair is in favor as well. Then I would then ask that I have a motion to close this public hearing.
motion to close public hearing first.
Thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
second,
Thank you, Leslie. Discussion on the motion. Discussion, George?
no,
Discussion, Larry?
no,
Discussion, Leslie?
no,
Discussion, Woody?
Done.
Discussion, Mary?
no,
Great. How do you vote, Larry?
yes,
Thank you. How do you vote, Leslie?
yes,
Thank you. How do you vote, George?
yes,
Thank you. How do you vote, Woody?
Yes,
Thank you. How do you feel, Mary?
yes.
And the chair is in favor as well. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. That concludes that piece of business. So Mary, Martha, we can go back to our screen and let me pull up the next item on the agenda. So the next item, I see old business. I see none. Is that correct, Martha?
That's correct.
Okay, so new business, election of planning board officers for the chair, the vice chair, and the clerk. I'll just say something real quick. It's been a privilege serving as your chair for the past years, but I think it's very appropriate at this point in time that the chairs be rotated. With that said, I would open this up for discussion and see who is interested in doing what going forward. Or or should I point the, should I take the pen and point around the squares? Larry, let me ask you what your thoughts are in going forward.
I would be honored to serve as chair if that's the will of the board.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the other positions at this point or.
Yes.
Focus on that.
Yeah, we could if you'd like to do that. Larry.
It was my thought, Pete, and that you have done an exemplary job shepherding us through a couple of very difficult years with COVID and Zoom meetings and whatnot. If it if it's the will of the board that I take the chairmanship, I would feel very comfortable if you would agree, and you certainly put in your time, and if you say no, I would understand it. But if you would agree to serve as vice chair, God forbid, if we ever have a meeting and Martha's not available, I would be lost and trying to run a Zoom meeting. And I think we're far from out of the woods on that. So that's my thoughts on it anyway.
Thanks very much, Larry. Let's see what people's thoughts are, and if there's other discussion out there. George, sir.
I had no problem with Larry. I think you may or may not have a problem as vice chair, but that's up to you. But I would certainly I do appreciate Larry's putting his hand up to be chair. Thank you.
Thanks. Leslie.
I think Larry is more than qualified to take over this position, but I think it would serve the board at this particular time if you are willing to stay on as vice chair.
Okay, thanks. Woody?
I thought that you were a good chair for this board, and as Larry pointed out, it was difficult times and learning the Zoom curve and everything else. And I think Larry would make a great chair, and I think that with your assistance as vice chair, that would help us if anyone was ever absent.
Thanks.
If
Thanks,
you
Woody.
want to do it.
Thanks, Woody. Mary, your thoughts?
Larry and Pete would be a terrific team. Pete, if you would agree to be vice chair, Larry would definitely be my first choice as chair. And I hope that you two can work together. And I thank Larry for stepping up. And Pete, I hope you stick around and help him out.
Okay, all right. Thanks for everyone's vote of confidence. And Larry, I appreciate you stepping forward.
I'll try not to abuse it, Pete.
Like I said,
Power goes to his head.
so now I'd like to find out if there's any interest in the clerk position. So let me go around. Woody?
I'd be interested in being clerk. Leslie's doing it now, but I wouldn't mind filling the position.
Okay, all right. George?
It's fine. If Woody would like to take it, I'd back him.
Leslie, I should ask you, what do you want to do?
Well, I think that's a great idea. When I joined the board, I was given the warning of new personnel always becomes the clerk. But Woody's still our newest person, so I think the reins can be turned over to him.
Mary?
If Leslie wants to step aside, Woody is terrific, and that would be great, just as long as Leslie doesn't want to maintain her basic power as a clerk.
Okay, all right. Okay, if everyone is in agreement, I'd entertain a motion for Larry to serve as chair, for myself to serve as vice chair, and for Woody to serve as clerk.
So moved.
All right, is there, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second,
Okay, on the motion, discussion, George, Larry,
no.
discussion, Leslie,
No,
discussion, George,
No discussion.
discussion, Woody,
No,
discussion, Mary.
No.
Okay, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
Thank you. How do you vote, Leslie?
yes,
Thank you. How do you vote, George?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody, how do you vote?
yes.
Thank you. And Jen, how do you feel? Jen, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Well, I looked down and I saw Jen LS, and so my eyes went from Mary to Jen. So I apologize, Jen. I apologize in the audience. Mary, how do you feel?
Well, I was going to say absolutely, and then I wondered, well, maybe he shouldn't be such a great.
No, I have the participants on the right side of the screen, so those are my eyes.
No, absolutely, positively, yes.
Okay, so that was okay, I just got myself confused. Martha, was I on the decision or was I on the call? Did I call the question? That just totally confused me. It's a good thing that I'm handing over the reins. I'm telling you, buddy.
Yes, you called for me.
Just one point of clarification. I'm looking at the agenda. This would be effective July 1.
Yes, that
Yes.
is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, July 1st.
Yes. Okay. And so Larry, you voted yes.
Yes.
Leslie, your vote.
Yes.
George, your vote.
Yes.
Woody, your vote.
Yes.
And Mary, how do you feel?
Yes, 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 yes.
All right.
And the chair, how does he vote?
Yes, the chair votes yes, the current chair, soon to be. All right. The next item, I think we just need to clarify for designation of authorized signatures for a primary and alternate for the A&R plans and invoices and payroll. So typically it's the chair and the vice chair. I just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with that. Larry, are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, Leslie, you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, George,
Yes.
Woody,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes,
Okay, great. Martha, do you need that in the form of a motion, or are you comfortable with that?
I think probably it would be better to have it in form of a motion because I need to
Okay.
alert both the registry of deeds as well as our town accountant.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion that the signatures for the A&R plans, invoices, and payroll be the chair and the vice chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. And I made the
Right,
motion.
who made the motion?
Well, I don't want to make the motion. Does someone make the motion?
I will so move.
Beautiful, Larry. And George, do you want to second that?
Second.
Beautiful. Discussion on the motion, Larry.
No discussion, no.
Discussion, Leslie.
None.
Discussion, George.
None.
Discussion, Woody.
No.
Discussion, Mary.
no,
Very good. How do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
Good. How do you vote? Thank you. How do you vote, Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mary, how do you feel?
yes.
Okay, and the chair is in favor as well. Okay, continuing on, we need to have, talk about our liaison positions for ZBA and for the select board. So I'm open for folks if anybody wants to indicate what they would like to do.
Well, I've been liaison to the ZBA for 2 years now, I think, which I'm more than happy to continue. That said, if anyone else has an interest, I'm more than happy to step aside and let someone else do that.
Okay, so is anyone interested in ZBA? I hear crickets.
It's really no heavy lifting.
Does the magic pointer come out?
I just try to sit there and try to look wise, you know.
Do it very successfully.
Thank you. No, it's they're a good group and they're a pleasure to work with in all seriousness. And they have some interesting issues that come up. But that said, if no one else has an interest, I'm more than happy to continue. I actually enjoy it.
Okay, any comments, questions, interests? Okay, then I would entertain a motion, or let me continue. Select board, who does anyone have any interest on being the select board liaison?
Well, if nobody else is interested, I wouldn't mind continuing on.
Okay. Does anyone have any interest? Okay, so I would, and currently I'm, just for clarification, I'm on the Conservation Commission and I am actually a appointed, let me understand this correctly, Martha. I am appointed by there's a planning board member appointed?
Yes, our bylaw requires that one of the Conservation Commission members be a planning board member. So that's an official, you are a full member of the Conservation Commission, voting member appointed by the select board. And it's a 3-year term. So I think your term is up next year.
2023, yes.
23,
Okay,
I think
all right.
so.
Then I would entertain a motion for the ZBA and the select board liaisons, which would be Larry and Leslie.
I would so move.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. There's a motion and a second discussion on the motion. Discussion, Larry.
No, no discussion.
Discussion, Leslie.
None.
Discussion, George.
None.
Discussion, Woody.
No,
Discussion, Mary.
No.
Okay. How do you vote, Larry?
Yes,
Thank you. How do you vote, Leslie?
Yes.
How do you vote, George?
Yes.
How do you vote, Woody?
yes.
Mary, how do you feel?
Yes.
Okay, chairs in favor as well. All right. Last item I think that we have are the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the April 28th, 2021 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
I have.
Okay. Any questions from anyone?
I
on
have
the-
none.
No,
I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes
motion to approve the minutes.
for, that would be for April 20th, 2021. There's a motion. Is there a second? Thank you, Liddy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Good. Discussion on the motion. Discussion, Larry.
No,
Discussion, Leslie.
No.
Discussion, George.
No.
Discussion, Woody.
No,
Discussion, Mary.
No.
Okay. How do you vote, Larry?
yes,
Great. How do you vote, Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you. How do you vote, George?
Yes.
Thank you. How do you vote, Woody?
yes,
And Mary, how do you feel? Great, thank you. The minutes for March 16, 2022, these were sent to the board Monday, on Monday. Has everyone had the opportunity to take a look at those?
I've
No.
seen them. Yep.
Leslie?
I actually have not.
Okay. George?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Woody?
yes, I went through them, but
Perhaps we should wait till everyone has an opportunity to review those. So Martha, can we pop those on for our next meeting for approval? Beautiful. And Larry, do you have a report on any minutes to be approved?
Yes, I've gone over with Martha's help. We've gone over the meeting minutes from June 5th, 2019 and June 12th, 2019, and those have been approved.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, let's see. Let me pull up the agenda. Let's see if there's anything else. Great. I think that is all that we have on our agenda for this evening.
Can I have a question? Can I ask you a question?
You can ask a question, of course, Mary.
I just assumed there's an alternate and I'm not, I couldn't be in any of those positions, so I didn't put myself. I want people to think I don't want to help out, but I believe as an alternate, I'm not allowed. Is that correct?
Let me have Martha clarify that.
I would say that's probably correct.
Right. That was my understanding of what you said to me earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, technically, under Mass General Law, the associate member's position is to step into in as a voting member if one of the board members has to recuse him or herself or
Okay.
can't participate specifically in a special permit hearing.
Okay.
You know, that said, I think the board has always encouraged the associate members to, you know, fully participate in everything that we're doing.
Right. But
Well, with that, I don't know that there would necessarily be a prohibition about a liaison position,
No, probably not.
because I mean, it's an informal position. It's
right.
nothing that we're required to do. So if you want the ZBA, Mary,
No.
it's yours.
The CPU was the last one. No, it's okay. I just wanted, I just want people to understand, I want to do my part. And I understand that my position is, you know, not as full as everyone else, so
Oh.
I kind of sit back and watch the road show.
Well, speaking for myself, Mary, your input is always valued and on
Thanks, Larry.
point.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And
I love it. I love the planning board.
Yep, and we're glad you're here, Mary, and I want you to continue.
Thanks.
Yes.
And if you'd like to do ZBA liaison, I think that Larry would be more than happy to.
Yeah,
that
maybe.
should do it.
Well, you think about it.
Think about it.
I will think about it.
We have flexibility. All right, with that
Thank you.
being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second
Yes.
it.
Thank you. There's a second. On the motion, discussion, Larry.
No discussion, no.
Thank you. Discussion, Leslie.
None.
Okay, thank you. George, discussion.
No.
Thank you. Woody, discussion.
No need for discussion.
Thank you. Mary, discussion.
No, and I promise I'm gonna read all the minutes because I need a good night's sleep.
All right. On the motion, how do you vote, Larry?
I vote yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you, George.
Yes.
Wonderful. Woody?
Yes, and good night, everyone.
All right, thank you, Woody.
Good.
And Mary, how do you feel?
Yes, and good night.
Everyone,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a privilege. Martha, thank you as always. Everyone have a good night.
And Pete, thank you again
Bye,
for everything
guys.
you've done
Thank you.
these last couple of years.
Yes,
Thanks,
absolutely. And Martha, thank you for all you do, putting everything together.